Prime Minister Narendra Modi has now completed 24 hours of meditation at the Rock Memorial in Tamil Nadu. He has not said a word. We've seen the photographs. We are hours away from a hectic and high-stakes election ending and culminating. The largest election ever conducted in the history of humankind. In one of the oldest civilizations in the world, let's have an honest conversation. How many of us are privileged with an English education, feeling uncomfortable wearing our religion or faith? Many conveniently say that it is a private matter. Faith is a public matter or a private matter as one would want it to be, but in the balance we strike for ourselves. We have to ask, have at any time any of us felt discomfiture? Many even obliged to objection if someone was chanting Jai Shri Ram. That would not be the case if someone would say Sat Shri Akal or Salame Walaikum. Both are simply recognized as honorable greetings. We have a moment of repose to have the difficult conversation in an age where Hindu phobia now is a thing, where Diwali is celebrated from the White House to Downing Street. Who and what is a modern day proud Hindu, and how will a new generation redefine old ways of life? Will they wear it with pride or with prejudice? Why would some of us still think that what PM Modi is doing is not his natural instinct but theatrical artifice? What matters as a matter of astha and doesn't? Let's have a larger and a much needed conversation. Joining me on the telecast, I'm going to start my conversation with Professor Madhav Nalapat. And Professor Nalapat, amidst the discussion, whether we talk about Renaissance, whether we talk about a revival in Hinduism, whether we talk about the rediscovery of Hindus across the globe, do you see there is a palpable change in the way the world looks at Hindus and how Hinduism is practiced?
Well, Megha, there's no question about that. And frankly, I don't think language has got very much to do with it, because almost all the freedom fighters of India knew English pretty well. And in fact, if you look at Rabindranath Tagore, you look at Swami Vivekananda, look at many of the other individuals who spread the knowledge of Sanatana Dharma across the world, many of them knew English fairly well. So I wouldn't associate the language with the thinking of Macaulay, which is basically that Indians should act in the way convenient to the British. I don't think that's linked to language. You can know any language, and yet you can be indifferent to your own culture. So I don't think it's proper to link language with it. But I'd like to say very clearly that it is important for us to understand the depth of our culture, the breadth of our culture, the brilliance of our culture. I think that is happening now in the last 10 years. There's been a celebration of Indian culture. In the past, frankly, we had a Festival of India, a cultural festival. I and my wife were in Paris when the Festival of India was going on in Paris, and we were a little surprised to see, I think it was Guru Kelucharan Maharaj, one of the great artists of all time, performing in a metro train in Paris. The French authorities wanted him to perform in a metro train in Paris. I don't think the Guru would have done that ever. And frankly, I don't think that was fair. But that was the impression that they had of Indian culture. And whether it's Indian dance, Indian music, Indian tradition, these are all very, very beautiful, very unique tapestries. And what a change has come about since 1985, if I remember, or 86, I think it's 85, when that festival took place. And today, 2024, when Indian culture is celebrated and given the respect it deserves. You're not going to see a Kelupachan Charan Mahapatra asked to basically, go on the subway and entertain people. That's never going to happen, because people understand what Indian culture is all over the world. And I think that has been a very important contribution of Prime Minister Narendra Modi over the last 10 years. He has ensured that Indian culture is known, and not only known, but respected across the world. If you know it, you will respect it. It's because our other cultures did not really know what our culture was, that they did not respect it. Once they started knowing it, the respect automatically came. And that's what we're seeing now, Megha.
Okay, all right. I also have with me Uma Anandanji. And Uma Anandanji, when we take examples of Rishi Sunak, who's the current UK Prime Minister, and when he goes out and does the Gau Puja, and he goes to the Gaushala, or he's lighting lamps outside the 10 Downing Street, which is his official residence, or when he goes and takes oath as the Prime Minister of the country on the Gita, and something similar, a phenomenon that is being seen by in Indian origin senators and members of parliament from Ireland to Australia to Canada. Is this then today a proud Hindu who is not embarrassed or shy of talking about his religion, of practicing it? Because when we take and have Joe Biden, the US president, taking oath on the Bible, and nobody bats an eyelid. But something similar being done over here in India, for example, Sengol is brought into the new parliament. The opposition comes out raging against the BJP, talking about its saffronization, talking about saffronization of our constitution, of how we function as a democracy, and also bringing in the Sengol and bringing about the context of how this is very Hindu and we are quote unquote a secular nation.
See, first understand that the Congress has been who was not at all.
Okay, Umanandan, we can't hear you. We'll try to get
origin.
Yeah, yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
There. No, you can't hear me? Yeah, you can hear me?
I can hear you now, ma'am.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. See.
Okay, we've lost her again. We'll try to get her back on the telecast. Meanwhile, Anurag Naidu, how do you respond to the same question about how the world is very welcoming of Indians practicing their culture, their religion, but something similar, it's quite the opposite over here. Is it because of political compulsions and the ideologies political parties follow?
Yeah, I think, particularly the Indians and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, there is a similarity. We Indians are known for exhibiting, embracing our religion, whatever religious belief that we have in, whether from a display point of view, or whether from exhibition point of view, or whether from the way we dress, the way we the way we do our chanting, the way we do our morning rituals, everything is a part of our cultural, inheritance. So Prime Minister Modi, in this case, has never never in his life shied away from his religious belief, from what his practices are, whether, on what kind of a spirituality he believes in, what kind of an belief system he carries. He's never shied away. And by and large, India, if you see, Indians are known globally for this kind of culture, and not only India. Now, if you see, because of some of the good organizational work that some organization which I can name, like ISKCON or some other organization, are doing across the world, that is somewhere taking the knowledge and the entire the scripture part of it, the theoretical learnings to Europe and across the world. And that is exactly where our Indian culture and Indian belief system, Indian spirituality is getting a boost. And I think Indian spirituality is an all-time high. And I think if anybody, whether not just Prime Minister Modi, but anybody who is displaying his spiritual belief in one religion that he believes in, whether it is Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, I think when it comes to India, it has a unique nature. You see Christians in Europe and elsewhere in the world. Christians in India, they're different in terms of their practices. Christians in Kerala are a lot different in their practices. Kerala, again, has its own a very, very unique composition of the religious belief and spirituality. They have their own nature. The Muslims of Kerala are much more different in terms of practice with respect to across India, whether it is UP or even in Hyderabad. So I think we have to respect the diversity that we're bringing. But one common thing that we all have is we all exhibit whatever religious belief that we carry, and we live in harmony. And I think Prime Minister Modi, why does it always have to become a news whenever he chooses to wear a particular color, chooses to dress in a particular style, chooses to go in a particular place? Why should it always be a news? And why should Mr. Modi or anyone supporting him or his party or his followers give a clarification and backing on why he should be exhibiting the kind of whatever he's exhibiting? So I think we should respect all the culture, and also let's not understand one thing. Let's understand that Prime Minister Modi has taken the Indian culture to across the world. The way he dresses, the way he practices his stuff in the morning, and even the upvash that he has for the Navratra. That while even when he's in US or even a White House dinner, he gives a statement. He tries to tell and communicate why his belief is like that. So I think we should all appreciate and fundamentally back what he's trying, and try to give him some space sometimes. Not everything is political. Not everything that Prime Minister Narendra Modi does is political. So I think we should give some space and let him exercise whatever he wishes to do.
Okay. All right. I have with me Rashmi Samant as well. Rashmi, how do you view? You think this is the time for Hindus and the world accepting Hindus and respecting them, and even also being, and we've seen that, in the past, there have been a number of people, celebrities across the globe who have traveled to Rishikesh, who've traveled to Varanasi to find themselves, to those who are spiritually inclined. Do you think there is a larger understanding of what Hinduism is?
Well, Megha, definitely there is a larger understanding of what Hindu Dharma is. We have A-list Hollywood actors like Julia Roberts following the tradition. We have so many famous bands, so many famous people, not just in Bharat, but across the world, who are not even born to this culture natively or have any ancestors of this culture, follow the faith and actually draw inspiration from the faith in their art, which is appreciated all across the world. So that is something about Hindu Dharma. When it comes to Prime Minister Modi, he's always been, he's been wearing a Sikh turban at many events. He sported a Sikh turban. He has hosted a Christmas gathering at his home for members of the Christian community. He has even offered a chadar to, Ajmer Dargah. But this does not make headlines. But there's always hue and cry every time Prime Minister Modi either goes to Kashi, wears a tilak, or wears saffron. And what saffron are we talking about here, Megha? Saffron in the Bharatiya culture, it signifies sacrifice. It's even a part of our flag. So how can we disown something that is so integral to our own moral fabric? And why is there selective outrage when, he does something Hindu? And there's no outrage, there's no press when he does something Sikh. In fact, there is criticism saying that, he's wearing a turban. In fact, there is criticism if he hosts Christians at his home, but there is no appreciation. But he's vilified the minute he does something Hindu. And I think this double standard really needs to, stop. And by the end of the day, Megha, I think more than, about Hindu Dharma or anything, today Bharat is at a point where we're decolonized, where we don't shy away from wearing dhoti. He's actually wearing dhoti, which is a change from his regular, the pant and the, kurta pajama. So it's a change from that. So you can see a decolonized person, a decolonized Bharatiya in that picture. I don't see any problem in that picture. And I think Bharat today is moving more towards that. Even if the language we speak is English, or there are lots of these English habits which we have, but internally our philosophy is more Bharatiya than ever. And that is something that you can see through these pictures as well. And on a lighter note, I'd like to add, Megha, that here, this is not a photo where the Prime Minister of India is shaking hands with a known terrorist who is, accused of killing 4 Indian Air Force personnel. Here, he's just sporting something Hindu. But despite this, he's the one who's put on trial, and not the Prime Minister who actually shook hands with a known terrorist who is suspected of actually killing Indian Air Force personnel. So this is the kind of double standards that we live in. And it's appalling that these are the questions we are asking, whilst we need to celebrate this fact.
Yeah. Professor Nalapati, I just wanted to bring in an incident, and this incident is written and archived in the books of the biography of our former Prime Minister Narasimha Rao. And this is an excerpt from the book called Half Lion, and where is a mention about how he is a dhoti-clad man who has not gone abroad to study, and he comes from Andhra Pradesh, and there is an instant when he sits down with Rajiv Gandhi before the time that he was the Prime Minister, and he was in the cabinet of Rajiv Gandhi, and Rajiv Gandhi would look down upon him because he had the coterie that he used to have was of the Oxford and the Harvard studied people and his friends and his colleagues. So have we at this point, moved from that kind of ideology thought process to today, where perhaps a Harvard or an Oxford does not have as much significance as the hard work that the person does, as the Prime Minister also mentions. And if you're wearing a dhoti or a lungi and a kurta and a pajama, is not looked down upon, is something that is part of your culture, your tradition. The clothes that you are, your country actually is synonymous with.
Well, Megha, you're perfectly right. And I think, a dhoti or a lungi would be perfectly correct attire, given the temperatures, for example, that are there in some parts of India. And I think, in the UK, where Rashmi has done extraordinarily well, I think the temperatures there also rising to a stage where they may seriously need to consider wearing the dhoti or a lungi. I want to make it absolutely clear that there is no reason whatsoever to feel upset or alarmed by this kind of nonsensical talk. Now look at Narasimha Rao. He was a quintessential Indian, the way Narendra Modi is. Is it an accident that was Narasimha Rao who initiated the economic reforms of the 1990s? We had to wait from 1947 until 1991 in order to have economic reforms. And don't forget, Rao was the industry minister. He delicensed the whole of industry with one stroke of the pen. And yes, he was looked down upon, frankly, by some of those who were close to Rajiv Gandhi. But the reality is, he began the liberalization process, which Prime Minister Modi has continued in various ways. Why? Because like Modi, Narasimha Rao had faith in the Indian people. He knew the Indian people did not need to be ordered around and led. They did not need to be, like in the colonial times, always told what to do and be put on a leash so that whatever they did was only by the consent of the all-powerful government. He released the people from that kind of tyranny to a considerable extent. And today you're seeing that same release of tyranny in the digitalization of services in India initiated by Narendra Modi. These are two people who have been proud to be Indian, who understand the greatness of being Indian, and who basically exemplify in their lives, in their behavior, and in the reforms that they have done, their faith in the people of India. The difference between Macaulay's mind and the mind of, let's say, Narendra Modi or Narendra Datta, Swami Vivekananda, is that the two Narendras had complete faith in the Indian people. We are a wonderful people. We are, overall, a very special people. All of us Indians are in that way. Whereas Macaulay wanted us to feel inferior. And that is why, for a long time, even after 1947, that inferiority complex was sought to be continued in the psyche. And that complex today, I can tell you, has been completely dissolved. It will never come back, Megha.
Okay. Uma Anandin, if you can hear me about, today within our country and even abroad perhaps, and I think Rashmi would augur with me that why is it that it is assumed that Ram Rajya or Hindu pride is to be equated with saffronization or Hindutva, as the terminology is negatively used by a number of people across the country in certain sections, and talk about chauvinism or prejudice?
See, it is again, I'll tell you, as I started earlier, I think we owe it to the first Congress Prime Minister, Mr. Nehru, and the Congress party followed it dicto. That is what for the last 50 years, we have never had our pride to to tell you frankly, I don't think any of us throughout India, I was not aware of our heritage or anything north of the Vindhyas. Why? The North Indians were unaware of the cultural heritage of South. They were all in our own world with the Macaulay world, especially Tamil Nadu. I should say that the British influence was too much, and you had the Justice Party stroking the fans of it. And now, thanks to our Prime Minister, we are slowly regaining we have regained our confidence, our pride. As Mr. Nalpat clearly said, see, everywhere that he goes, we dig up the history, the cultural heritage of the place, like how he did when he met the Japanese Prime Minister, the Chinese Prime Minister in Mahabalipuram. You had the entire Indian euphoric about Mahabalipuram, going to Wikipedia, going to Google search, trying to find out the significance of Mahabalipuram, the pakodas, the Arjuna's penance, and all that. Let me tell you, as someone from Tamil Nadu itself, it was a lot of new information I could gather. Same way, now I would like to say Kanyakumari. How many of you know it is the abode of goddess Parvati? You can see the small feet of goddess Parvati in the rock that he has sat. Swami Vivekananda also saw that, and that is why he also sat there. How many of us know that here, Lord Goddess Parvati, in order to wed Shiva, she was in penance for that, and he was supposed to come and get married to her. But because of the boon that the Asura had got, she was not to be married. He was to be killed only by an unmarried woman. So you had the cock crowing before even the sunrise. So Lord Shiva went back before wedding goddess Parvati, saying that the sunrise has come. And in a fit of anger, goddess Parvati was so angry that she was jilted by Lord Shiva. And so in a fit of fury, when the Asura came in front of her, she killed him. How many of us know this story of Kanyakumari? Kanyakumari means a virgin queen, and she's a permanent virgin there. That is why she stands at the Bay of Beth, at the confluence of the three seas, guarding Bharat. How many of us know that? The same way the Prime Minister is now sitting on the same rock where Goddess Parvati walked. And he is now praying for Bharat's flourishing. It's already done. Like this, he goes to Kedar. Like this, he goes to all places, makes us proud about our cultural heritage. And you have the Congis jumping. Just as what the first Prime Minister said, he's an accidental Hindu by birth. What do you expect from a party of such stature?
Okay.
This is what.
Okay.
So even Mr. Modi's saffronization, I just don't understand.
Yeah.
Saffron is the color of India.
Yeah. So Anurag. So again, the same logic. When you take, why do some people still think that saffron yogism is archaic? It's attached to being jingoistic. It's attached to being fanatic. And when Yogi Adityanath was sworn in as the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, there were a lot of these negative connotations around him. And suddenly, when you see a man a man or a woman in saffron robes, they are immediately judged and looked down upon, and not seen part of the elite or the so-called elite of the country. Why is this perception so?
Absolutely. I think, Megha, you're partially correct. I would say not yogism, but the saffron, embracing saffron attire is a bit jingoistic. The people still look down upon. And I think the final answer to that would come when Yogi ji will become the Prime Minister of India, have the same attire and go to the White House, have the same attire and speak at the United Nations, carry the same attire and go to international forums. And look at how Yogi Adityanath ji embraces his attire. That is something. I mean, that is a step ahead of even Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I mean, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is quite selective in terms of color. He goes by a very good sense. He's got a great fashion sense, though. But one thing I agree with Professor Nalapat here is that that inferiority complex that we Indians had. I think that globally, I can tell you, Megha extensively traveled over the last, particularly 2 to 3 years, more than 8, 9 countries. I would say, it has diluted. I think we have, the Indians are no more inferior. I was very recently in Germany a couple of months back, and I was having some business meetings. And one thing a CEO of a top company said to me, and said that, you have a prime minister who's close to 75, and it appears that, in all the news and everything, that he travels 24/7 and he eats vegetarian food. I mean, it's also a part of the culture that he practices, Prime Minister Modi practices. And how does he manage to be so fit? And is it true that he works 24/7? He sleeps in the flight and then gets back to work, which we all know we follow Prime Minister's schedule. And this is something that they all feel, that this has something to do with the whole yogic nature that Prime Minister Modi follows. And that is something, it makes him a very distinct leader. No global leader that you would see would do the kind of work, 24/7 work that Prime Minister Modi does. I mean, he doesn't even take a single day off. I think that has also got to do with the yogic lifestyle that he maintains. It's a part of, and meditation a big part, yoga a big part, that he's always been emphasizing upon.
Okay. Rashmi, taking a look back several decades ago, it was Gandhi who wore the dhoti and he was termed as the fakir. And it took him some time for the British to take him seriously, with the kind of work that he did, with the kind of knowledge that he imparted, with the kind of intellectualism that he was able to impress upon the British, and his firm resolve that he wanted freedom for the country at every single cost. Is that, and why is it that while Gandhi was appreciated and revered, and it was Pandit Nehru who worked very closely with Gandhi, all our freedom fighters and politicians and the people from the Congress party worked extremely closely and worked with his non-violence movements that he carried out across the country. But why the disdain again for the dhoti and the lungi?
Well, I think, Megha, I think there is acceptance for Modi ji's clothing all across the world. I think nobody has any issue with the way that he dresses anywhere in the world. In fact, he is respected for having, his integrity intact and for having a lot of self-respect and bringing India to the world table with confidence. I think the only people who have trouble digesting this is the people within the country who still retain a large extent of the Macaulay mindset. So I think the problem is very internal here. We don't have to bring in the British. The British accepted Prime Minister Modi the day he became Prime Minister. And there has been no problem on an international front with him at all. In fact, I think it is with other prime ministers that we've been embarrassed on more than one occasion on a global platform. And on many platforms, we were never taken seriously. So I think that is not the problem. The problem here is very inward. The problem is our own people, and not all of our own people. You would see here that I think a majority of the Indians are now actually rejoicing the fact that we have a prime minister who reflects the mentality of India's majority, which was not the case. We had people who would do niche elite things in the past, which did not resonate with the Indian population. But they repose their faith in such people thinking that they knew better. But Indians finally know that they did not know better, and that they misuse their education and elitism to, just fatten their own pockets. So the cat is out of the very, confident. The Indians are very confident, and they know what has importance. And I think that is what we are seeing. We are seeing the India's sort of rise, and what Indians think. It is that 20% of the Indians who are not okay with it. It's that elite India which is not okay with it, who cannot digest the fact that they are no longer, holding the reins of power, and that the common man has finally taken charge of their own destiny, and they're writing it splendidly so. I think that is what the problem is here, Megha. It is not a problem with the globe accepting us or with the globe having some sort of inertia to accepting us. We are doing splendidly fine.
Okay, all right.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.